you all please join me in saluting the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record reflect that Dr. McNeil is not here this evening, but all other board members are present. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. On to the consent agenda, all of the following items, those items of a routine nature normally approved at board meetings, will be approved by one vote unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and actions on the following items A through S.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. We'll move on to reports. Do we have a representative from USPA this evening? UCTA then. Ms. Gunter.
President Romerman, Dr. Federline, and members of the board, UCTA recently held a holiday member event for all of our members from different sites so they could come together, mingle, and talk. And we're also planning to have another one in the spring. And we're looking forward to winter break and hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you. All right, do we have anything under hearings and correspondence? We do not. We will move on to the business agenda. Under finance, item number 1, presentation of the 23-24 annual audit report by RSM US LLP, and consider and take action on the 23-24 audit report. Dr. Williams.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight we are here to present the audit report for FY 23-24. We do have our representatives from RSM here with us tonight. Before I hand over the mic to Mr. Robledo, I'd like to make a few comments on the financial statements. Jessica, if we could get 2 more up front, that'd be great. The opinion of the auditors is unmodified. There are no question costs. There are no substantial deficiencies or material weaknesses. So those are always the kind of reports we like to have for the board. We have 2 reports tonight. One is the ACFR, which is a very lengthy financial report that we prepare, about 113 pages. And the other is this very short compliance report, what we refer to as our single audit report. The single audit report addresses the district's federal programs, and before I move on to the main report, I'd like to point out in the single audit report, or compliance report, the district last year had a total expenditures of federal funds of $32.7 million. A staggering amount and reflective of the ongoing ESSER funds expended through the COVID relief programs. This 32.7, of course, also includes our child nutrition federal program, and about 14 million of that is through USDA for the child nutrition program. So substantial federal funds. The federal programs that were specifically examined in the audit include all of the special education cluster, ESSER 3, and the ARP, regular emergency fund, as well as the homeless children and youth ARP funds. So shifting gears now to the large district financial report. I won't go through all 113 pages, but I would like to point out a few things worth mentioning. If you'll turn to page 38, this is what we call the governmental activities report, and this compares FY23 to FY24. This is a full GAAP presentation. It's on a full accrual basis and includes all district funds except for medical insurance. So when we look at this, we have to keep those two things in mind. It's a GAAP presentation. It includes all funds, child nutrition, bond, general, et cetera, everything except medical insurance. The FY24 column on the left, I noticed a number of changes that we experienced in the fiscal year. The first being under the revenue heading, property taxes in the funds increased by about $5 million. That was a result of the NAV growth in the district that we experienced in FY24. You'll remember we had like 8.16% growth, so we saw property tax increases across the building, general, and sinking fund. The other significant change that we saw in FY24 was state aid. You'll remember we received about $11 million in additional state aid at the beginning of FY24 for teacher raises. So that is reflected in that $67.4 million in state aid. The other change worth noting is our earnings on investments. Across all funds, we saw a significant increase in our interest earnings, fortunately for the recovery in interest rates. So we saw a big increase there. On the expenditure side of this statement, the increases in spending, of course, had to do with teacher raises. You'll see those in instructional spending as well as special education spending. Between the teacher raises and the continued ESSER spending, we continue to have a really high level of instructional spending there. And the other thing worth noting is down at the bottom under support services, child nutrition operations. We had a pretty significant increase in expenditures, which goes along with our increase in food costs. Of course, there were some salary increases there as well, but those inflationary costs that we've been talking with the board about on numerous occasions really show up when you line up and compare one year to the next. The second statement I'd like to kind of briefly share with the board is back on page 88. And this is what we call a statutory or a budget basis, a comparison on the general fund only. And so this is the fund that we talk about most commonly and that we present, and when you see the fund balances, it looks more typical with what we've come to expect in the general fund. This report presents our original budget approved by the board early fall, our final budget that we amend in June, and then our actual, we call it a non-GAAP or a statutory budget basis, our actual revenues and expenses. So you can see there that we came out a little over budget on revenue, quite a bit under budget on expenditures. Our change in fund balance for the FY24 year was $2.4 million, and that increased our fund balance at the end of the year to $18.7 million. With that, I'd like to just add a couple of items. Our audit, we actually start working on it in May. It is a 6-month process, and this year was literally a 6-month process. We met every benchmark, though, that we set for ourselves, and I'm extremely proud of Jessica Wright and her staff. They did an excellent job as always, but this year really hit it out of the park. I would also like to express our appreciation to our colleagues at RSM. They've been our auditors for a number of years now and have done a good job for us. Also appreciate the work of the communications department for the cover work and as well as the introduction on the ACFR. I'd be glad to answer any questions from the board, and I'd ask Mr. Robledo if he'd like to make a few comments.
Good evening, board members. Thank you, Dr. Williams. I think you pretty much summed it all up. I mean, overall, the audit results are clean, not only on the financial statement audit, but also on the compliance audit. And like Dr. Williams indicated, it does take a lot of effort to get there. It seems like a pretty straight book to put together, but there is a lot of effort that goes behind that. Getting that clean opinion, not only on the financial statement audit, but also on the federal funding. The federal funding is nice to have, but the associated compliance effort that you have to go through, I mean, you have to take that into account for every dollar that you do receive. So as part of the overall financial package that we issued, there's also a required communication letter, and that pretty much just sums up the conduct of the overall audit. And it's nothing different. I mean, overall, we didn't come across any matters that were required to report as part of the audit, not only the financial statement audit, but the compliance audit. As part of that overall effort, we're also required to look at the accounting policies and practices that are used by the district. And if we see anything in there that's out of line, we're required to bring those to your attention. There was nothing that we're required to communicate to you at this time. As part of the audit, we're also looking at internal controls that are used by the district to ensure that they're complying with the federal grants that are being awarded. And also, we look at the internal controls to execute on our audit approach. And if we come across anything that's of concern, we're required to bring those to your attention. Happy to report that we have nothing to report. Always a good thing. The last thing I want to talk about is your financials do include accounting estimates. Those are derived based on historical experience of the district. Some of the significant estimates are the allowance for uncollectible property taxes, the present value of lease receivables, the depreciation on capital assets, and then some of the larger ones relate to your pension and OPEB benefits that you are providing to your employees. As part of that, we have to bring in our own specialists to ensure that those actual demographic and economic assumptions that are being used, we verify that and make sure that our actuaries are comfortable with those assumptions given the plan parameters. And we're happy to report that based on what we looked at and based on what the actuaries provided to us and our actuaries looked at, there's nothing to report, everything was clean. The last item on the letter that we provided to you is just pretty much bringing awareness to independence, and that is, as part of the audit, we do have to maintain our independence, not only the critical team that's assigned to the audit for RSM as a firm, and as part of that, management and the district also has responsibilities to ensure that they don't bring in RSM to do non-audit services that may impair independence. So that's something that we're just bringing awareness to as we complete the audit, and we bring awareness to it when we start the audit, just to keep top of mind to ensure that we don't cross the independence line as we execute on the audit. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all. I know this is like 5 minutes of information for thousands of hours of action here, but we appreciate your hard work on that. All right. Do we need to, that is just a presentation, and we need to take action on that one.
Yes.
So I will entertain a motion to accept the audit.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank you. Item number 2, consider and take action on the revisions to the district's uniform guidance procurement plan and procedures. Mr. Frenzel.
Good evening, President Romerman, Dr. Federline, members of the board. I come to you this evening to request approval for our updated federal procurement plan. This is historically a plan that we update when there are revisions to the Uniform Grant Guidance legislation, also referred to as 2 CFR 200. That's our guidelines on how we can spend our federal funds. And it is required by the USDA to be updated and presented for approval each time there are some major additions and changes. I would like to point to a couple of big changes that have occurred the past couple years, and we've kept a conservative stance really up until this year, when it has sort of hindered our ability to solicit proper bids. So one of them is an increase in our competitive sealed bid threshold. It originally was at $100,000 for federal grants. It's now up to $250,000. That's really going to help out our child nutrition department, where we have farmers who didn't have the ability or the need to actually bid on some of our solicitations over $100,000. So now they can just submit a quote to us. A lot of the farmers were really having difficulty with that. So that's really going to help out our child nutrition departments. And then the other area is they've increased our asset amount that we need to dispose of the equipment. So they've increased that from $5,000 up to $10,000. So we have to follow some specific guidelines for that. Lucky for us, very rarely do we ever get any additional surplus money beyond a thousand or so and that includes buses. So I entertain any questions you have.
How many schools directly negotiate with farmers? That sounds like out of the ordinary.
Well, I actually would have to have Braden speak on that if she's here, but most of the schools out there have a farm-to-school program.
Okay.
And the farmers just aren't tech savvy. We go through a e-procurement solution, which is a web-based solicitation program. And unfortunately, farmers just aren't quite up to the ability to be able to solicit on these solicitations. They're not able to bid on these because of that. So this will allow them to submit a quote rather than an actual formal solicitation, which could take hours sometimes to complete.
Any discussion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank
very
you.
much.
All right, under instruction, item number 1, consider and take action to approve the capacity levels and the calculated open transfer capacity amounts as recommended. Dr. Nelson.
Yes, President Romerman, Dr. Federline, the board. I recommend the Board of Education consider and vote to approve the capacity levels and the calculated open transfer capacity amounts by school and grade level for posting on the district website by January 1st. I might just make a few comments. We have some transfer capacity at elementary, particularly in 4th and 5th grade, which is not unusual. Our capacity levels are higher at those grade levels, and then at the 7th grade and 8th grade as well. Not a lot of space, but we do have some. And then currently, we have 944 transfer students that attend Union. About 1/3 of those are children of employees.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, consider and take action on the purchase of 350 teacher laptops and accessories from Trafera in the amount of $332,500 from bond funds. Mr. Bushyhead.
Yes, President Romerman, Board, Dr. Federline, asked for approval for 350 teacher computers and docking stations. These do include a 4-year warranty. Mr. Borland was able to secure some great pricing this time of the year, and would ask that you approve that. You see on the memo what schools are going to get them, so.
And is this just our sort of usual rotation of kind of keeping everything within warranty from site to site?
Yes, and we have quite a few updates that need to be made. Again, I don't know the exact savings, but as a result of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, he investigated that and was able to secure some really good pricing on these. So I think in the past, they've been over $1,000 per unit, and with the docking station in the 4-year, they're all less than that. So he was happy about it, I know that.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, under personnel, consider and take action on the 24-25 early retirement incentive program for certified and administrative employees. Mr. Logring.
President Romerman, Dr. Federline, members of the board, I ask that you approve this year's ERI program. This early retirement incentive has been a staple here at Union for many, many years. It does a great job of encouraging our teachers to stay a little bit longer to be able to qualify, and provides them a great benefit with 2 years of paid insurance as well as a small stipend. On this year's ERI program, we have 12 teachers who have signed up and 1 administrator. We had no support employees this year. But it's a great program that I know everybody is excited to be able to qualify for. We did have quite a few teachers who are just shy of it and were a little disappointed, but we will see them next year, I am pretty sure. So this year, there does look to be a savings of $270,000 with the number of teachers. It's not necessarily a savings program, but there are times when we do look at it with the number of teachers. If we're bringing teachers in at a B0 or a B1, we will save some money in the district in the future if we can find them. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
It's always a bittersweet one.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank you. All right, under school operations, item number 1, consider and take action to approve board policy revisions as recommended. Dr. Federline.
Yes, good evening, President Romerman, members of the board. Last month, we brought you a raft of board revisions and additions that were prepared by the various administrative departments of Union Public Schools. Brings us into alignment with our best practices as well as some new legal requirements. And to my knowledge, we didn't have any significant comments or questions from the community, and so tonight we're asking for your approval for these board revisions.
Move for approval. Second.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Item number 2, consider and take action to accept the bid for the Red Hawks Rise interior remodel at Alternative Education and award the contract to Construction Enterprises, Inc. in the amount of $448,420 from bond funds. Dr. Robinson.
Yeah, President Romerman, Dr. Federline, members of the board, we're asking for your approval for this project. This project is to Building C of the alternative school where our clinic used to be and IT has been housed for quite a while. We're making a new home for transition services for our special ed department. We're calling that the Red Hawks Rise program. It is to house and educate folks that have already graduated, and we're continuing to serve them through their 22nd birthday. It's an increase in capacity that we didn't quite have room for in our current facility. So we're taking that unused space or little used space and converting it. Basically, if you go into Alt-Ed Building C, there's kind of a dead vestibule space between the Alt-Ed classrooms and that old clinic. We're going to blow that wall out and make that one large space for the Red Hawks Rise program. It'll be very similar to the apartment that we have at the Freshman Academy. So there'll be a kitchenette, there'll be like a bedroom and a living room space, increase the restroom capacity to make room for lifts and changing stations and things of that nature. And we ask for your approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank you. Item number 3, consider and take action to accept the bid for the warehouse operations exterior improvements and award the contract to Richard S. Watts, DBA The Watts Company, in the amount of $224,317 from bond funds.
Yeah, again, we ask your approval on this project. This project, for the most part, if you go over to the operations complex and transportation complex, they're metal buildings, and so the bottom section of that metal over time starts to corrode and deteriorate. So for the most part, it's to replace that rusted metal with new metal, repaint, and then on the interior of our shop spaces in those same areas, we get a lot of ripping on the insulation on those interior locations, so we're putting up some metal paneling to protect the insulation. And then we're also doing a little bit of guttering and stormwater work to hopefully keep some of the stormwater out of the warehouse when it rains in heavy rain situations. We seek your approval.
Move for approval. Second.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Item number 4, consider and take action to accept the bid for the Operations Interior Improvements Project and award the contract to Richard S. Watts, DBA The Watts Company, in the amount of $162,711 from bond funds.
Yeah, for the most part, this is an interior finish remodel for the transportation areas on the first floor of the transportation ops building. This will be new flooring, it'll be new cabinets, and it'll also be new ceilings and lighting in those spaces. So the hallways and our driver's lounge and our office spaces for the transportation department will get all new interior finishes.
Is all this going to start immediately, all the ones we've talked about, or are they starting later?
The Red Hawks Rise is an unoccupied space, so we could probably start on that fairly quickly. The exterior improvements, I think we'll be able to start as soon as our contract's in place. I don't think it'll be very disruptive, but the interior finishes for transportation will probably need to wait until summer, because we have drivers in and out all day long, and it'll be fairly invasive having the floors up and the ceilings out with drivers coming in and out. So we'll wait till summer when there's less staff around for that one.
Move for approval.
Second?
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consider and take action on appointment of members to the Long Range Planning Committee. Mr. Bushyhead.
Yes, President Romerman, appreciate all of you all and your help getting folks to me, and I didn't actually scare any off from the committee this year. So this is a very important group for us. We tackle a lot of the issues within this representative group. As you know, this is a board-appointed committee. We have 3 representatives from each of your zones, and we've got that filled, along with representatives within the district. Our plan is to start meeting on January 6th, and then our second meeting will be on January 27th of next year. And again, there's a lot of things we talk about. We talk about start and end times, we talk about redistricting, we talk about other capital improvements. This is where we will begin our discussions on the next 5-year bond. And part of it is giving them homework to go out and investigate what their schools and their areas that they represent would like to see. I can imagine I was at Changemakers with a few people tonight, and I think shade shelters at all elementaries is going to be on the list. So,
I thought about you when they said trees, Charlie.
what's that?
I thought about you when they said they wanted trees.
I know. So we don't do real well with trees.
I
But no, I am asking that you approve this committee, and like I said, we're going to plan on sending out an invite to start on January 6th.
I would like to thank everyone that's agreed to serve. Maybe they don't know what they're getting into, but thank you very much.
Well, I try my best to make sure they're aware. They get more excited whenever we talk about it. So.
That's great.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, do we have anything under new business? Do we have, is there anyone signed up to speak? Would anyone on the dais like to share anything?
I'm going to make one quick comment. It's always nice to celebrate a clean audit. But, one of our pillars of our strategic plan is transparency, and the hard work that goes into that clean audit and making sure that taxpayer money is accounted for, it is to be commended, and it is the action that goes behind those words. And so Dr. Williams and Jessica and Sarah and your whole teams, thank you very much for all the hard work that went into that. Another one of our pillars of that strategic plan is inclusiveness. And when we talk about Red Hawks Rise and the program that we are building there and that Dr. Smith has spearheaded, that is an amazing example of the actions behind that word as well. So her department, as well as Dr. Robinson and his department, to be commended as well. So thank you all.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen? Mr. Reyes?
Yes.
The chair votes yes as well. We are adjourned.